We've had some tough days this season, some tough watches, but I think today was not one of those. It was refreshing in a way to see Manchester United turn up in the way that they did against Arsenal and not celebrating the fact that United have won, have drawn a game 1-1 at home to Arsenal. But I think at the time that we're living through with Manchester United on the day where protests were put forward against the Glazer family and the ownership of this football club, and to where this club was in the past to where the club is now, which is in the lower reaches of the Premier League. This had the potential to be a very, very difficult day, but we did get a reaction, I think, from the players. And all you can ask for at the moment, with all the difficulties that United have on the pitch, off the pitch, all you can ask for really is a performance full of committed players, fight, a bit more of I think we saw a little bit more of the system that Ruben Amorim wants to play today, even though he has said that that's not the way he wants to play, not the way he wants to defend. But I think we did see some really positive signs. And look, we'll wait and see. This conversation could all change, and Manchester United could go out of the Europa League on Thursday night to Real Sociedad, and the season could be over and there could be nothing to play for. But I think what we do need to see, and the very bare minimum we'd like to see out of the players at the moment, is that level of effort and that level of energy, which should be the bare minimum. And I think we did get that today in difficult circumstances with 13, 12 even senior players with Rasmus Højlund on the bench. It's a very, very difficult spot that United are in. And regardless of all the noise that you're going to hear about whether Arsenal's wall was back too far and criticism of Bruno Fernandes from pundits and Roy Keane and all this, like you have to just try and shut the noise out and just understand that the position that United are in at the moment is a very, very difficult one. It will take some time to fix. But in the meantime, to make things easier, we'd just like to see performances like that, and to come out of that game and say that I think United deserve to win and were unlucky not to, I think is some progress. I'm not saying that this is where United need to be or what United should be, but it is a bare minimum, isn't it? And I think United gave a good account of themselves today. 1-1 against Arsenal, and United I don't actually know where United are in the league table. I haven't checked it yet, but not that it really matters at the moment. United are 14th in the league, level on points with Tottenham, 1 point ahead of Everton and West Ham could overtake them tomorrow. But whatever. I think where we are at the moment is in a difficult spot. And the focus should be on trying to win the Europa League. If that doesn't happen, then this season's going to peter out. But I think Ruben Amorim got a reaction out of his players. I think the Old Trafford crowd got a performance today where you can say that the players gave their all, and we know that the all of this group of players, because it is just not really enough at the moment, because a lot of them need to be replaced. But if we get performances like that for the duration of the rest of the season before the big changes come in the playing staff, then I think you can get on board with that. You can get behind it, at least, knowing that things need to change. But I'll talk about the game a little bit on this reaction podcast, which is on Apple and Spotify. Might be on YouTube as well. I'm not entirely sure yet. But this is the Promised Land podcast with me, Scott Saunders, talking all things Manchester United. I've certainly had some difficult days and difficult nights and difficult podcasts to do this season. This is a little bit easier, I will say, because there's some performances from a lot of players today, which were quite encouraging. And I want to talk about them on this episode. So give a 5-star review if you do like this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or any audio platform you may be getting this on. Subscribe and tell your mates if they're United fans to subscribe to the podcast as well, and they want something a little bit more reasoned. That's what I try to bring you. Also on YouTube, so subscribe to the channel there. Like the video, leave a comment for me as well, and get in touch with me on social media at @Scott Saunders on all the usuals. I'm on Blue Sky as well. Link is in the description. But look, I think this was a day that started with huge protests. I think from what I've seen, I've been in the TalkSport studio, so I haven't really been able to fully take everything in terms of sound and atmosphere and noise. But I think from the pictures and from the videos that I've seen, the protests were very, very significant, and hopefully has sent a message to likes of the Glazer family. I saw Jim Ratcliffe was there next to Omar Barada today as well. And it's about sending the right message. It's about sending a message to, we all know that the big thing here is, and that the most important thing is to get the Glazer family out of this football club. And demonstrations like that can hopefully make a difference in the immediate short term. I think in terms of ticket prices, we don't want to see fans punished for the club's poor performance. That's not the way that it should go. And hopefully those demonstrations have made some kind of difference. And fingers crossed, the club do take that in and don't make the decisions on ticket prices that we are fearful of. But look, things have been so bad recently that the protests looked orderly from what I've seen and effective. And well done to everybody who went out there and made their voices heard and showed those pictures and created those pictures and created those videos, which will be circulated around showing the displeasure at the the ownership of this club and where the club were 20 years ago to where the club are now. It's I just did need to say that. So well done to everybody that got involved in that and sent the right messages. But in terms of the game itself, I think the first half was one of those, wasn't it? And I did fear at the time watching in the first half that this was going to be United slowly ebbing towards a 1-2-0 defeat at home when Arsenal had eventually scored first. It looked like United were really struggling to make an impression on the game. Arsenal very much on top for most of the first half before your boy Bruno Fernandes steps up with a fantastic free kick. As much as David Raya was maybe not in the right position, I did spot that when I was watching it on the TalkSport stream. It was the class from Bruno Fernandes and the ability to deliver in that moment and the ability to step up and put a free kick in like that. To just look, if there's anything that this team needs at the moment, it's a pick-me-up, and it's a lift of the pressure that's on them that they're probably all feeling at this point. As I mentioned earlier, there's only 12 fit senior players at the moment. Eleni Yoro's got a foot injury now, so we have to wait and see whether he's going to be fit for the next game coming up on Thursday. Everything just seems to be hitting the fan at once, on the pitch and off the pitch. And what Bruno Fernandes has been doing over the last few months, last few weeks as well, especially last few weeks actually, is putting in performances befitting of a captain. And you can have your Roy Keanes pointing fingers at Bruno not being the right captain for Manchester United. I don't agree with that personally. I think he'd get into some of the great teams that United have had in the past, but you can't really look at Bruno Fernandes now and call him out for not hitting the required levels or not being the right captain for United when this is the situation that the club are in. He can't fix it on his own. And the way that he's responded, I say this a few times, the way that he's responded to Ruben Amorim and the direction that Ruben Amorim has brought in, I think he's changed as a captain personally since Ruben Amorim has come in. I think they're on the same wavelength, they're on the same page, and I think he is the on the pitch representative, I think, of Ruben Amorim and what he wants. And he's really stepped up to the mark, and that's through quality in set pieces, that's through quality scoring goals or delivering in the right moments for United, and he's been doing that for the duration of his United career. Remember when he joined and he was scoring penalties and affecting games and coming up with assists and all this when United were in a really difficult spot. I think he is the personality that he has, the courage that he has is really, really commendable. And it was great to see him get another great moment and another great goal at Old Trafford, which put United in a good position going into half-time. And I did feel that we've had such a difficult season, such a bad season, that it's, that record of United not losing a game while winning at half-time in the league at home. I think it stretches back to 1984 and right through the Premier League era. You just thought that maybe this is the day that goes. And I did say it a few times, but it just seems like that's the way that this season's been going. And so many records have tumbled down the years at United that it just seems like that one that always gets brought up when United are winning at half-time. it just felt like it would go to me, because you just don't really have enough reason to believe that United are in the right spot and turning things around, given they're 14th, 15th in the league or whatever it is. But wasn't the case. I think United, if anything, were much better in the second half. And there was a few performances. I talked about Bruno already. A few performances that I think were really good, really commendable. Casemiro, I think, was as impressive as I've seen him for a long time. I think his tackle numbers were off the charts. I'm not actually sure who got man of the match, but I think Casemiro looked incredibly. He looked really good. He looked really good. And look, I think the fact that United had played, and Ruben Amorim said this, he doesn't want his team to defend in a low block, but it's just needs must at the moment. I think the fact that United did defend in that low block means there's less ground for Casemiro to cover, and maybe that's why you see the tackles that he's putting in being so effective. Because I think the one thing that Casemiro struggles with is lots of space around him and having to cover lots of ground because he's not that mobile. And when he's, in a team that is playing that condensed, he does a better job. And I think Ruben Amorim has been smart enough to realize and smart enough to say that I know I have my principles, and there's some principles I'm trying to instill, and there's a system that I'm trying to play. And he's getting a lot of criticism for the system and sticking with it. But what he has adapted is, you can tell when he speaks to the media, and you can tell probably from watching him on the touchline that he does not like to play a line as deep as that and a block as deep as that. And he said afterwards that this will come in time. I'd like to play on the front foot a lot more. I'd like to be more attacking. I don't want to play like that, but it's a case of needs must at the moment. And you have the players that you have. And if they're not able to play the way that you want to play, then you might have to adjust. So he is adjusting. And I think people in the media are very, very quick to jump on the bandwagon and say he's too stubborn, he won't change his system. But there are some tweaks that you're seeing in it, because he realizes the difficulties that he has in getting these players to play the system that he wants and in the way that he wants. These players can't do it. So he just has to find a way to get through the rest of the season as best as possible, get to the summer, and then it can be the proper rip up and start again, so United can start playing the football Ruben Amorim wants to play. But yeah, Casemiro, I think, was a big beneficiary of that today. I thought he put in a really good performance. Some great performances as well from the likes of, it's a shame that Lenny Yoro's got injured, but I really do like him. Nusayr Mazraoui, I think, was quite good as well. And I think, talking about the system that Ruben Amorim plays, I think I saw today overlaps. I saw cutbacks from various players, and it's not as much as I haven't really been seeing that so far. So there were some signs, some suggestions to me today that United were doing the right things. And of course you want to see that more often against teams that United should be beating. And look, Arsenal, in an ideal world, when United are fit and firing and on the top of their game, teams past I'm talking about, they should be beating Arsenal at home because they're the biggest club in England. They should be. But looking at the team right now and the difficulties that the team have, you just can't expect really to go and turn teams like that over. That's not to say that United aren't going to get back there or don't want to get back there. You just have to look at the team for what it is now and just accept that, okay, it's going to be difficult. We know that we need to change things, and we will get there. But for now, we have to maybe alter the plan and just try and do our best. But you saw some elements for me of Ruben Amorim's message coming through in terms of how they build up and how they create chances. And I saw Nusayr Mazraoui getting into the box in the 90th minute and pivoting on the ball and sending one back in for Bruno Fernandes to have a shot. And he was saved by David Raya, and then Raya cleared it off the line, obviously. But it was encouraging to see that. It was encouraging to see there was a patch of play in around I forget exactly what minute it is, but the second half, where there was a bunch of crunching tackles. Matthijs de Ligt was involved in that as well. He's been getting a lot of praise recently. And I think, look, there's a player there. He loves to fight. And that's what you want to see at a difficult time like this. You just want to see a bit of application and some effort and some fight and some desire. And that's the place to start. That's the place to start. And I think we did get that out of most of the team today. if not all the team. I was quite encouraged by that. Now, I'll be back in just a quick second to talk more about some of the players that I felt were really good and really strong, and talk about some of the negatives as well, because there were one or two, but I want to keep this short and succinct. But I'll catch you in a sec. Yeah, of course, you will see. I see the conversation on BBC Five Live now is, are Manchester United better under Ruben Amorim than they were under Eric Ten Hag? It's just ignorant of what the club are actually trying to do. And of course, you want to see Man United being better under Ruben Amorim than under Eric Ten Hag. But you know, the reaction to this game that I've seen is so. There's a lot of controversy about how far the wall was back, and you know, it's just you need to kind of get out of this. And I definitely try and do this as well. You need to try and get out of the noise that you're kind of being fed up. You know, you're being served. It's a lot of noise, but I think you got to kind of realize that this is a mishmash. This is a team which isn't fit really for Premier League football, but all you can really ask for is just a bit of application, and all the noise around it is just, it's inevitable really, but it's just, you need some performances to be able to sink your teeth into, and for a little bit of pride. I think we got that today, as I say, but yeah, some of the fallout, I've not entirely been able to see it all yet, but I'm guessing if you've been on social media, or if you're seeing some of the coverage and the reaction to it, then it's, oh, well, United aren't nowhere near the title, and this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. But this will take time, guys. And I say this on every podcast that I have, that I do. This will take time. This will, you just strap in, because it will. And unfortunately, that's the way that it is. But this is due to 20 years of negligence, you know, and that's what the protests were for today. So it'll turn around. If there's any if it's any help to you, I do think that United will be in for better days. And I think that this season is probably going to be the hardest season that we're going to have to endure. But I think things will turn around from here. But there are certain elements of this team, or certain players in this team at the moment, that have been brought in, especially since in the Ineos era, or in the Ashworth/Wilcox era. Obviously, Ashworth is gone now, obviously, but Ayden Heaven comes on and was signed in January from Arsenal, and is probably thrust into the first team picture a little sooner than most would have wanted, given the injury problems that United have. But he was plucked from Arsenal to probably come into this squad and come into this this team a little bit earlier than he would have got the chance to at Arsenal. That's just where the teams are at the moment. And look, I think the performances he's put in so far have been really, really, really encouraging. I think Ruben Amorim said he's very relaxed, sometimes too relaxed, and we just have to make sure that we get that right. But he comes on at left centre back with Lenny Yoro being injured at halftime, and didn't put a foot wrong. He really didn't put a foot wrong. And when you think of all the money that needs to be spent, and everybody saying, oh, well, United have spent £1 billion on transfers over the past few years, and they've gone terribly. And think of how much money United need to spend in the summer. United need to spend 80 million quid on a striker. Not necessarily. And this is, I hope that, and I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but the way that Ayden Heaven has adapted, and we haven't seen loads of him so far, but coming into the team in that position at left centre back, it seems the right position for him. He used to play in midfield as well, I believe, so he's got some good quality on the ball, and big unit of a guy. He's got some filling out to do, obviously, but there were instances today. I think he was faced up in a defensive duel with Martinelli and very much got on top. And just generally, I think really quite encouraging. The point I'm trying to make here is that Ayden Heaven was taken out of Arsenal's academy, and we will wait and see to know just how good he can be. But the fact that he's getting chances in the first team at the moment means that United need to find bargains. And again, my point is that United don't necessarily have to spend 60 million quid on every position. Can you be smart? Can you tempt a player to come from another team's academy who's on the brink of the first team. He's been in Arsenal first team squads, obviously, and played against United in pre-season, I think. Can you find... How's your recruitment? Can you find the right talents? How quickly can you fast track them into the team? Ayden Heaven, the fee was minimal. It was a compensation package fee, I think. And obviously United have convinced him to join the club. Chido Obi has been convinced to join the club as well, as a little bit younger. But he was on the bench today and didn't get on, unfortunately. But if United can, and they're making a lot of these signings as well, if United can spot players and convince them to join this project and they don't spend too much money on them, and then they can nurture them on and develop them into players that can hold their own in the first team. I'm not saying that all these guys have to be world beaters, but Ayden Heaven today I thought was really, really encouraging. And that position on at left centre back really seems to suit him. And it's about making sure that you get the right profiles of player in terms of their stature, in terms of their physicality, in terms of their technical ability. And it's about making that, testing them out and seeing if they're viable long-term first-team players, or if they're not, then potentially you sell them on. But Ayden Heaven, I thought, was really good today, and I'm really quite excited to see more of him. So look, we'll wait and see. But I think he is, for now, anyway, he looks like a viable first-team option for the remainder of the season to me. And if he can get more experience in the Premier League and start to come into his own, then maybe United are saving themselves money in that position. And maybe there's some other players in different positions that United can start to blood into the first team that look like they can hang. You know, that is your way out of this. If you can be smarter, not necessarily have to spend 50, 60 million quid on every single player in this first team. It can be, I've seen United being linked with Jean-Philippe Mateta over the past few days, and I haven't really had my say on that yet. But you can see the fit. You can see why the links are there. You can see the qualities that he does have and how that can potentially fit into the United team. So I'm not entirely sold on that one, by the way. But, you know, who am I to say that I'm not sold on that one? It's if the value of the fee is right, if the player profile is right, then if they just make a succession of good decisions and just smart decisions over the course of the next 4 transfer windows or whatever, then things can turn around pretty quickly, I would say. It just doesn't seem like that at the moment because everything is so negative and the media play their part in that. And obviously the performances don't help. But if United can put more performances in, like they put in today with just that required level of effort and care, then the season will be a hell of a lot easier to get through. And I think it'll be really helpful as well to Ruben Amorim for his team to get positive results, because it just seems like every result the United are getting at the moment before this is just entirely negative, and it just sends the sentiment down, and it makes everyone miserable. And I'd argue we're probably at the most miserable time in United's existence in a generation at the moment. And Lord knows how bad it's been over the last decade or so, last decade, 12 years. Look, United are, this season's a write-off. It's about how high up the table they can get. And I know that Andy Mitten makes a big point of this in terms of if United are scrounging around to save millions or hundreds of thousands here and there, then 3 to 4 million per position in the Premier League is quite an important thing to them. United are going to go on a post-season tour, I believe, which could amount to 5, 6, 4 million or something like that back in the pocket. They're doing a pre-season tour in the US with the likes of Everton and West Ham as well, I think. And there are difficult weeks ahead for us. But there's 10 games left of the season to go. If United can carry that level of performance into Europe in the week, then fingers crossed, you never know. But United don't really have that massive goal threat at the moment. But if they can show the kind of build-up that they were showing today against Real Sociedad, you have a little bit more confidence that maybe they can edge through, and then maybe you can build up a little bit of a head of steam and progress your way through those rounds. And maybe at the end of the season, we have some kind of miracle trophy win. Who knows? But United and Tottenham are on 34 points each in the Premier League. And wouldn't that be a hell of a day? We'll see. But look, just Victor Lindelof came into the team, and Yeah, he'll be out of the club at the end of the season, obviously, but I think did okay for what it's worth. I've had my say on Diogo Dallo a little bit recently. Not entirely sold on him. He did have some good moments and some pretty shocking moments, but I just wanted to talk about the 11 overall. Alejandro Garnacho, just want to make a point on him. Looks so much better from the right hand side, and as much as I think it might be his preferred position to play out on the left or left 10 in this system, when Patrick Dorgu's in the team, and obviously he's not there at the moment because he's suspended, but when Dorgu's in the team, Garnacho tends to want to occupy the same space that Dorgu should be operating in to offer the width and to get high up. It seems like there's a bit of a clash there. So I think for me, testing Garnacho out in this right 10 role makes a lot more sense. And I think he was a big threat today. He always seem to be. He always gets up and has a go. But I think it just takes a little bit of the second guessing. It makes him more instinctive. And it makes him therefore more dangerous. He can carry the ball. He can go both ways with it. We saw in the Community Shield at the start of the season as well. He was on the right side, dribbled inside and shot with his left, and he scored against Man City. And today there were moments where he created chances, or he carried the ball really far, or he shifted a ball across the box from the right side. He can go down the outside, he can drift inside, and I think it makes him quite dangerous. And then you don't really have that, given Mazraoui or whoever's playing at right wing back isn't the attacking option generally that you'd think. There's a difference between what Dorgu offers and what the likes of Mazraoui and Dallo offer, and maybe selling that Mazraoui a little bit short there because I thought he was quite good today. But Garnacho is, when he's in the role like that, I feel like he is a lot more instinctive, and I'd like to see him occupy that right 10 role more frequently. I think the fact that he has played there for a couple of weeks now, or however long it's been, maybe suggests to me that Ruben Amorim likes him there, and that he has figured out that Dorgu / Garnacho axis doesn't really work, or maybe it requires some work. It might not be his natural position or his favored position, but I think this is what suits the team best for moving forward. And Rasmus Højlund, I just want to talk about Rasmus Højlund and Andre Onana before I go as well. I will do more on Onana over the next few days, but I think I don't want to leave on a negative note, but I've seen remarks on Højlund having that chance and not being so instinctive and not taking the shot on when he could have. And yes, of course, I think he should have acted quicker and he should have took the shot on as soon as he got it. Declan Rice ended up tackling him and the chance was gone. But Højlund was... You got to remember here that this kid is 22 years old, right? I just need to double check how old he actually is, but 22. He turned 22 in February. He's getting a lot of pressure on at the moment. He probably sees the social media comments about him when things aren't going well. He hasn't scored in ages. And obviously, I've seen that people have suggested today that moment that he had, if United had a better number 9, then United would have won. And maybe that's the case, but that's not really helpful, is it? Because you know that these players are more online than ever. You know that he's been starved of service, and that you can have your fair criticisms about Rasmus Højlund, saying that he's not the right fit for that forward role, but also there's a bit of both in it. He doesn't get the right service at the right times. He had a chance today, and he didn't take it. He didn't act quick enough. But think of the confidence issues that he's probably having, the fact that he stepped up from Atalanta to such a big club who are in their worst moment in a generation, and think of all the difficulties and the pressure that he's having to carry on his shoulders, and how, when you're a striker, I've never played professional football, obviously, but the way that it goes as a striker is you just need one to go in off your backside or something like that. But he hasn't even been close enough to goal for that to happen to him. So I think it's just a case of, I think the pressure needs to be alleviated off Højlund, but also you got to be aware as well that he's 22 years old. That's a hell of a burden to carry. So I just wanted to say that you can critique Højlund, and yeah, maybe in that moment he wasn't ready and he missed the chance, and maybe another player takes that opportunity. But he's 22 years old. And I make this comparison. Everybody's talking about Victor Gyökeres nowadays. He's 27, 26. Victor Gyökeres was there once, you know? And it takes time for these players to mature and takes time for these players to get to grips with this level of football. It's taken Højlund a while, but he's not had the right atmosphere or the right conditions for him to build on the confidence that he'd had when he came in and was quite effective in his first season. It's not been the case for him. But I think Højlund deserves a little bit of a breather there for me, and maybe that's something that you disagree with, but let me know in the comment section or let me know on social media at @double_Scott Saunders. Just a quick one as well. I was asked by a listener of the pod, Best Canton 7, Canton and Best, big advocate of the podcast. Big thank you for you for all the support down the years, and really appreciate it. Can you talk about Andre Onana? Let's see what you said. I hope you cover Onana on your podcast. If I'm honest, I've lost all faith palming the ball out into a dangerous area seemingly every week now. I did say I will do more of a deep dive because I do want to look at the players on the whole over the course of the next few weeks and analyze really who has a long-term future and maybe who doesn't. Just a quick word on Onana. That happened again today, and I know I've just stuck up for Højlund there. Onana's a hell of a lot more experienced, and he should really not be palming out weak shots and opportunities to opponents. This I'm talking about here, I think it was a shot from Odegaard, I want to say. I can't remember who it was exactly, but it was palmed out. Quite a weak shot, palmed out to the right side of Onana's goal. Martinelli blazed it over the bar, but he was offside. And that could quite easily have been another moment where United have put in a good performance and then there's a mistake from the goalkeeper and then everything changes. And that's happened a good few times now. And something needs to change with Andre Onana. Because if it doesn't, I think a lot of United fans are starting to lose faith that he's the right goalkeeping option. I've got to say that I'm not entirely convinced, and I haven't been convinced for a while now. You just need a safe and steady pair of hands and somebody to do the kind of things that David Raya ended up doing for Arsenal. Just somebody who doesn't make mistakes. And it seems like there's too many mistakes. I think United got off with one there. But overall, I think United were unlucky not to win. I think the chances they created were better. Arsenal were disappointing, I think. But United applied themselves really well. And fingers crossed, we can see more positive performances over the course of the next few weeks with United playing in the Europa League against Real Sociedad over the course of the next week. It's a big one. There's a lot of pressure on that, and hopefully the players can react in the same way that they did for this game. Hopefully they can rise to the pressure and actually get over the line and end up winning that to progress through to the last eight of the Europa League, because the club simply needs the money from the Champions League. We'll wait and see. I don't live in optimism really, but it is nice, as I said at the top of the pod, it is nice to see a positive reaction. And it is nice to see United rising up against Arsenal. They've done it a couple of times now in their last two meetings with them. Rising up and giving a good account of themselves. If United can get through the remainder of the season with performances of that ilk and performances like that, as committed as they were, then it will be a lot easier to stomach, even though United are going to probably finish in the lower half of the Premier League table, the bottom half of the Premier League table. Just performances that are made of metal, performances that fans can get behind, and a level of care and a level of commitment to show that we're going to crunch into this tackle. I'm going to win the ball. I'm going to win the 1v1 duels, and I'm going to really show myself like I want this more than you. We need more of that. We really do. But look, I'll be back at some point very soon to talk more things about Man United. This has been a bit of a post-match reaction to that game. Man United won, Arsenal won in the Premier League. It could quite easily have been 3 points for United, but it wasn't to be on the day. But fingers crossed, some positive signs at least, which is not something I've been able to say throughout this season. But anyway, subscribe to the podcast if you've not done so already. Leave a 5-star review on the audio show, which you can find on Apple, Spotify, and any other audio platform you might use. Also on YouTube as well, the Promise and Manchester United podcast. And get in touch with me on social media at _Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, TikTok. Drop a comment underneath the YouTube video as well if you do see it. And subscribe to the channel. But until next time, everyone, positive performance today, but still plenty of work to do, obviously. Until next time, see you soon, everyone. From the Promise and I've been Scott.